Hey everyone, this is Marna. I'm back. Sorry about the unexpected vacays, but life happens. I have been doing a lot of work on my Twin Flame Detox channel. Even if you do not identify as a twin flame, if you are someone who has been healing from the loss of a soulmate or a life partner for any reason in these times, I would highly recommend that you check out the information that is on there, because that information will still help you. I will put a link to the channel in the description box below, so if you are interested in it, please do check it out. Twin Flame Detox has been occupying a lot of my time, to the point of right now I am writing a companion book. All of the extended videos that are currently behind paywalls in Twin Flame Detox will be talked about in the book itself. And I'm anticipating that book coming out in the next 4 to 6 weeks. It'll be roughly in the $20-25 range for the book, and then a bit cheaper for the Kindle. So, please keep that in mind and check that out as well. Now let's do a tarot read for general energy. Life has been so hectic right now. So we know that there's a lot of energy of fear. We know that there's a lot of energy of anger. We know that there have been a lot of things going on that should never have been allowed to happen. We know that there has been a lot of anger about all of this. My question going forward is, what can we do as individuals and as a collective to increase harmonic love in the universe? What can we do to help decrease the anger so that we can move forward in a productive way? Now, don't get me wrong, anger definitely has its place. I think that the protesters that have been out there, raising awareness, making it known how they feel, have been pushed past the breaking point and definitely should keep doing what they are called to do. I'm called to do something a little different. So my question to the universe is, how can we, as individuals, as a collective, how can we move forward in this to create the world that we want to live in? How do we move past the anger and into the world where we want to be? First thing that comes out, stop fighting. All right, come on now. What's next? What's next? What do we need to do as a collective? And I'm reading this stop fighting not as a give up, not as a don't protest. I am reading it, and there's the Four of Swords. I'm reading it as fight smart, fight intelligently, know exactly what it is that you're demanding, know why you're demanding it, and have a plan to implement it. Figure out how to put this in place. It is a wonderful thing to say, stop the killing, but we need to have a definite plan moving forward of how we are going to do this. We need to figure out how we are going to retrain the police so that violence is not considered a first resort. We need to start looking at other countries, how, in Europe, most police officers go through 4 years of training, 3 to 4 years of training, and their death rates are substantially lower per capita than in the U.S. So that is something that we need to be looking at. We need to be looking at better training the people who serve and weeding out the people who go into certain forms of social service, specifically because it gives them a license to bully in their minds. I know some very, very good law enforcement officers who would do anything for their people, and we need more people like that being encouraged to come in. We also need to stop expecting our law enforcement officers to be social workers. That is not what they are trained for. That is not what their duty is. That is not how they are taught to address situations. We need social workers being social workers and being paid well for being social workers. Because let's face it, any job that requires that you have a master's degree should at least pay a living wage. And right now, social work doesn't. Okay, so that's enough pontificating from me. So let's see what we can do. What actions are we taking moving forward? Where do we need to go? So, you've already heard what I think about the Five of Wands reverse. Yes, we need to stop fighting and start planning. We need to be smart. We need to be strategic. We need to be putting into action plans that will actually make a difference in accomplishing the goals that we all have. So, Four of Swords. This is a time of, we've seen the anger, we've seen the violence. This is the time to try to recover. This is the time to look into healing instead of into harming. We know the problem exists. We know the healing needs to be done, and we know that the healing needs to be addressed to the communities that have been most impacted by the damage that has been done systematically for generations. We need to focus on how to heal and move forward if we are ever going to get into this whole Ten of Pentacles. Sorry, I didn't realize it was quite that dark. If we're ever going to get into this whole Ten of Pentacles, we have the potential to create the world we want. We have the, good Lord, people, we live in the richest country in the world. We have access to the resources needed to provide bounty for everyone, and we should be providing bounty for everyone. We have this power already. It has just been concentrated into the hands of a few who do not see a reason why they should sacrifice any of their personal wealth to create a better world overall. So, but that better world, that is what is going to come once we start looking at seriously redistributing wealth. And I know there's a lot of people who sit there and go, but my taxes might go. No, your taxes are not going up, because let's face it, if you're watching tarot reads on YouTube, you are probably not in the $10 million plus income bracket. Just saying. I know I'm not. What we need to be doing is we need to come into this constructively, acknowledge the problems that exist, see where the healing needs to be done, and start applying the resources towards that healing instead of buying into this false narrative of you can't give people help when they need it. That has been used for far too long to make wealthy men richer, and it isn't true. You help your brothers and sisters. You help the people who need it the most. And let's face it, if you inject money into the base levels of the economy, if you make sure that everyone has enough to meet their basic needs and live on, then you are going to encourage economic growth instead of encouraging this dragon-like hoarding of resources at the very top. Oops, that's too many cards. As Will Rogers once said, you give a poor man $1, it'll be in the rich man's hands by nightfall, but it'll have at least gone through the economy first. All right, clarify, please. Five of Wands reverse. Thank you. That was quick. Six of Swords. Time to move on. We know the problem exists. We know. I'm not saying stop the protests, because the protests need to keep going. The protests are the only thing that are getting the attention, that is getting stuff done. But we need to be prepared to realign the direction that the protests are going in. There are too many bad actors who are using these protests for a valid social point as a smokescreen to cover their own illegal actions. And quite frankly, most of those bad actors have been white supremacists. And, honestly, if you're a white supremacist watching my channel, you are kindly invited to get the fuck out. I don't put up with that shit. So, we need to move on from the blind striking back that we have been doing, and we need to move on to construction. We need to figure out what it is that we need to be doing to be constructive from this point. We need to put an end to the bloodshed. We need to put an end to responses that are only increasing the problem. We need to stop. We need to stop the people who are in charge from fighting back. We need to stop them from encouraging action that cracks down against what is our constitutional right to gather in peaceable assembly. When people are sending out the riot squad because a bunch of folks are standing around chanting that Black Lives Matter, because they do, then there's a problem. We need to stop overreacting on the police response. We need to stop meeting valid social concerns with violence, because that is not the way to get anything done. There is a subset of people who are so focused on their fantasy world of what the 1950s were like that they do not want to see anything else. The thing is, the world they want, it has never been anything other than a fantasy. Yes, the 1950s were a time of great economic expansion, and they were a time when we accomplished a hell of a lot as a country. But we accomplished that because we had high taxes on the highest income brackets. We accomplished that because CEOs were making 300 times what their workers made, not a million times what their workers made. We accomplished that because businesses took pride in being able to support the people who worked for them. We accomplished that because the middle class was seen as a desirable goal to work towards as a society. And that glosses over a hell of a lot of things that were not good in that time. The misogyny, the racism, oh God, the racism, yeah, has still been going on underground. The misogyny has still been going on underground. The idea that Leave It to Beaver was the sum all and be all of the 1950s was the result of systemic suppression of the spread of information by people in charge. If you want to have a Leave It to Beaver existence, we are going to have to restructure the entire oligarchy that we live in now from the ground up. But there is no reason why we could not create that kind of world where working hard in a business gets you something, where you can work in the same job if you want for 30 years and then retire with a gold watch and have enough that you have supported your family the entire time without going into debt. There is no reason why people working for the wealthiest companies in the world are on food stamps because they're not paid enough to live on. This is absurd. This is greed, and it is this rampant greed that has been disguised behind this thin veneer of, oh, let's go back to the 1950s. The 1950s that y'all are dreaming about never existed. Get real. Okay, how do we heal? We heal by the people who have vision and have plans for the future, stepping forward. We heal by these people, providing their knowledge, providing the wealth of their knowledge, providing the plans and the goals to work towards. Good grief, y'all are jumping tonight. It will take time. It will take work. There is no overnight solution. But the solution does exist if we continue listening to the people who are being hurt the most, if we allow the people who have been marginalized to state what the problem is and to state what they see as a solution going forward, and to integrate those solutions into the overall change that is needed. Let's face it, the people who have been living in these hellish existences are the people who have put the most thought into how to fix it. And those are the voices that need to be speaking out and need to be listened to. We need to be nurturing all members of our society. When a new baby is born, you do not look at and say, hey kid, here's your diaper, here's your pacifier, get a job, freeloader. When someone is recovering from an illness, we should not look at them and say, get off the damn street, you idiot. We need to be nurturing the people in most need of assistance. We need to recognize that the system as it exists has spent 400 years keeping people as a whole from being able to move forward either individually or generationally. We need to acknowledge that, and we need to fucking change the system. Y'all know I don't like using curse words in my readings. I try not to, but damn, come on. How many times do we have to face our society falling apart and our world burning down around our ears before we admit that the system is the problem? I mean, really, guys, come on. This whole, I got mine, fuck you attitude is why the world is burning down around us. We need to move forward into a society that values all members, whether they are contributing to the capitalistic dream or not. We need to value the artists. We need to value the philosophers. We need to value those who have lived wisdom. We need to value the things that, quite honestly, do not currently have a financial compensation in this world. And it is only in valuing those people and listening to them that we can learn to truly share all of the wealth of this world. And this is the change. This is the change that is coming. This is the change that is coming swiftly. Anyone who has been to any of the protests knows the energy involved. And they know that that energy right now is ready to listen to the change. They know that energy right now is ready to believe that there can be something more than just violence. If we focus on the pain and the violence, and only the pain and the violence, that is all we will get. We must focus on what is needed to heal all of this. Not just the marginalized communities. We need to be healing the damages in the white communities that have allowed the rise of white supremacy. We need to be facing the hate that has become endemic in so much of white society because it's used as a way of excusing keeping other groups down. We need to address that, and we need to address it at the root, and we need to change it, or else we are never going to do anything but keep mourning a past that never was. There's the dream. There's the grail. We need to change society from the ground up. Are you going to be one of the people who spends your life chasing that dream without ever accomplishing anything? Or are you going to be one of the people who sits there and plans and strategizes and learns how to actually reach the goal? Four of Wands. It can be reached. It can be reached. We have to work together to do it. There has to be no one in our society who thinks that pain is the answer. We have to change from the ground up. We have to re-educate people into seeing that we are a cohesive whole, not a bunch of splinter communities. We need to change everything, and that is the North Star we need to be working towards. That is where we need to go. Needs to be our guide stone, the complete and utter change, the tearing down of what is currently not working and actively harming, and replacing it with something that acknowledges the uniqueness and the contributions of all people in our society. We need to make the change, and it needs to start with us as individuals who are actively working. Change is never easy. Change is never welcomed in a society. There are too many people who are standing to lose a lot by not maintaining the status quo, but we must choose to work together towards creating that lasting change, or else this is just going to keep repeating over and over again. So there. I asked, the universe answered. What do we need to do? We need to get to work. Y'all have a good day.